into the game. We have e4 by Lenin and a6, sound George defense by Hitler. And maybe you are laughing that Hitler don't know how to play chess. It's possible, however, keep in mind that in 2017, Jeffrey Chong played this opening couple of times against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in the rapid section of the tournament, and he won couple of games. So you know, it looks funny, but it's actually pretty interesting opening. We have d4 by Lenin and b5, knight f3 and e6 by Hitler, bishop on d3 and c5. So c4 is the threat. Usually c3 is the most common move here, but Lenin takes on c5. So Hitler takes on c5 with tempo, with the bishop, and now we have castle. So white finished the castle and, you know, play quite actively. We have bishop on b7. Now this bishop looks pretty good, but only the bishop. We have queen on e2, and here Hitler probably should, you know, develop the pieces. So move the knight on e7 or f6, maybe knight on c6, queen on c7 would be okay. Queen on b6 doesn't make much sense, but that's the move we have. And here a4 by Lenin, and in this position was reached also a couple of times. b4 is usually played because this takes the spots for developing from the knight. So knight would have to go on d2, maybe d5, and its position of white is slightly better, but of course it's still playable for both of the sides. But here Hitler takes on a4. We have knight on c3 attacking this pawn twice. So Hitler goes a3, and for some reason Lenin didn't go knight a4. Knight a4 actually attacked the queen and attacked the bishop. Maybe he was afraid for that continuation, and black would actually stand much better. So he didn't play that. However, he could take with bishop on b2. He didn't need to take the queen immediately, because now queen is under attack and also g7 is under attack. So queen would have to be moved as the bishop is defended. So queen would have to be moved and white would just win the rook and of course the game. So but that was not played. B takes on a3 we had in the game, and now queen on a5 attacking the knight. This queen actually in this opening belongs to c7, so the queen should stay there, but Hitler attacks the knight. We have bishop on b2. More interesting and active would be rook on b1, and now attacking this bishop, and black would have to move on c7 because there is nothing else to do. Bishop on c6 taking the spots from the knight, not really great. And taking the knight, of course, is losing because bishop on b2 and also taking the rook. So up the exchange with very active position, definitely winning for white. But we have bishop on b2 by Lenin. Here we have knight on f6, so activating the knight. However, activating on e7 would be much better because now we have e5. And black are forced to move this knight, and there are not really good moves for the knight. So knight on d5 was played. The knight were exchanged by Lenin, and here we have knight on g5. So a very active move, continuation of this e5. So now white asking black, what you gonna do? And black of course can't castle. Castle would be suicide. Bishop on h7, king h8, and now queen h5, and checkmate is coming. Nothing can be done. Black can only throw the pieces, but it also doesn't work. So and after knight on c6 or whatever move played, bishop g6, and we would have a checkmate, so that's impossible. This is why Hitler play queen on d8. Queen on d8, attacking the knight and getting closer to the defense. We have queen on g4, defending and also staying on this very important file. We have h5, trying, to kick the queen, but queen g3. We have h4, queen g4. And here is not easy to find the plan for black. h3 would make some sense, because that would be double attack on g2. White would have to mess the pawn structure, and then bishop e7. Black probably could defend, but it's very, very hard situation, very passive position for black. So white would enjoy the game for sure. However, Hitler played g6, and this is the position where I think you should, pause the video and enjoy finding the winning combination for white, while I enjoy my cup of tea. Okay, ready? So, yes, of course, that was not difficult. Knight on f7 with attack on the queen and the rook is winning the game. The best what black can do is queen on b6, and then white just take h8. Black can take the bishop, but that's all they can do. And now queen g5, cutting the king from the queen side. So black would have to play something like d6, but then queen on g6. These ranks are open, so it's very easy to attack the king now. King d8, knight f7 with check, king c7, and now rook a on b1. And so this open file belongs to white, and of course is very dangerous for black. The queen has to be moved, for example d4, queen g7, and now white decide what to do. It's of course a very easy win for white. Still have to, find some best continuation, but black has no moves, to prevent the checkmating net. However, Adolf Hitler in this position just take the knight on f7, and here is the question: how you continue? If you take with queen, I have a bad news for you, because you're not gonna checkmate Adolf Hitler. King f8, how you continue? This is the problem. Bishop on c1 and bishop on h6 is actually the only plan. Queen on e7, you can try something like bishop on e3, and if black, pick up, then you can checkmate the black actually. But d6 solves all the problems, because d takes on e6, bishop takes on e6, and now all you can do is bishop on h6. Rook h6, queen h6, queen g7, and exchanging the queens. And we have two minor pieces against the rook and two pawns, so it's close to draw. Definitely very long endgame, so I'm not really sure if you could checkmate Adolf Hitler. However, if you play bishop on g6, congratulations, you win the game. Now there are no good moves for black. King on g7 was played by Adolf Hitler, bishop on h5, king f8, queen on f4 with check, king g7, queen f7, and in this position Adolf Hitler resigned the game. You can ask, what if king go on f8 in this position? It doesn't work now, because queen on f4, king g7, queen f7, and now bishop on c1 works like a charm. Queen has to be moved to g5, sacrifice, and now this is of course winning. So white now can choose how to checkmate, and that also would be win. This is why in this position actually Adolf Hitler resigned the game. Okay, so let's try to find some evidence and maybe answer some questions about this game. So 10 years ago, a sketch appeared in the auction house, and it was together with the set of chess. And the seller wanted £40,000 for these two artifacts. And why he wanted so much? Because on this sketch we have Adolf Hitler and Vladimir Lenin, playing chess. Now here is the story. First, it is said that the image was created by Hitler's art teacher, Emma Lovenstram. And it also has two signatures on the reverse, and they have 80% chance to be genuine. Okay? And how we know it's 80%, I will tell you later. Now, the background, historical background. In 1909, Lenin was 39 years old and he was in exile. So traveling around Europe after the revolution in Russia was crashed. And Hitler was only 19 years old and he was very poor. He lived on the streets of Vienna, tried to, make some money by painting, by making, simple job and just to survive. And somehow the game was played in the house of some prominent Jewish family where future politicians or wannabe politicians often met to discuss some politic ideas. So we can say actually at the beginning of the 20th century, Vienna was center, not only, chess center that we know, but also the center of all kind of political intrigues and the plots. That's what we know. And then the story continues. Then before Second World War, the family, it was Jewish family, so they had to flee from Austria. So they left most of their possession to the housekeeper. And now, in 21st century, the great-great-grandson of this housekeeper want to sell these artifacts because he found it, to the unnamed vendor, but the unnamed vendor is confident that the items are genuine after his father spent a lifetime attempting to prove their authenticity. It doesn't sound good, does it? But he compiled a 300-page forensic document that included tests on the paper, if it's, from the beginning of the 20th century, and it is, the signatures, and is genuine in, 80%, and all the research about the sketches. And this is the etching. And it is titled A Chess Game, Lenin with Hitler, Vienna 1909. But who made this, the title? No idea. Maybe the author of the sketch, maybe. What more we know? We know that Lenin was definitely a chess player. We have the pictures, how he played, for example, against Gorky. That is the only game which, survived. However, it's also there are some doubts if the game is real. And the chess set, as you see, is the same like in the etching. And also Richard Westwood Brooks, who is selling the item, said, "This just sounds too good to be true, but the vendor's father spent a lifetime proving it." And then he said a lot of things. If you are interested, I leave the link in the description to the article about that. And also he said at the end, on all sorts of levels, it is extremely valuable artifact. Even as just an allegorical picture, it shows the man playing chess possible for the world. So it's maybe just allegorical picture, maybe some retrospect picture. Because at that time, retrospection in art about famous people was very common. It was very fancy in art, so maybe that was the way. And now more serious doubts. So historian Helen Rappaport, author of the book about Lenin, said that the etching was probably a glorious piece of fantasy. So she said that because in 1909 Lenin was in France and there is totally no evidence that he visited Vienna. She also said that he was bald, he had totally no hair back in 1894, so 15 years later definitely he didn't have the hair either. So maybe it's a different person in the image, maybe some of Lenin associates, maybe some Austrian socialists or whoever. Another clue, the person in the etching is left-handed, and we know that Lenin was right-handed. And the position on the board doesn't match the position from the record. So that's what we know. Now, auctioneer, of course, found the explanation for all the issues. So, for example, the picture was sketched years later. So, you know, the artist who sketched this didn't remember all the details, like how the Lenin looks like, and also if he play a right or left hand, or maybe about the position, maybe she didn't know chess or stuff. Also, Lenin could wear a wig for the sake of conspiracy. So that's the explanations. However, for me, it's all just the story to sell some random etching, you know, on the auction, and especially that unnamed vendor and his, of course, unnamed father, you know, who spent his lifetime of proving it that this is a real one. It just, you know, sounds very suspicious. If you like this story, press like. If for some reason you don't like this story, press unlike. Leave the comment. What do you think? Was it possible that, you know, 39 years old Lenin, when traveling through Europe, came incognito to Vienna to meet with some revolutionaries, and he met Adolf Hitler, 19 years old, poor boy, who maybe started to think about, you know, different politic ideas and discuss them together? I don't think so. But even if it's possible, how do we have, you know, this record? I didn't find any evidence about the record and about this game. However, in databases we don't have this game, so it's very, very suspicious. All this story is very suspicious for me. If you don't want to miss any other videos on my channel, press subscribe, press the bell button. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.